In this video, we're going to take a look at an introduction to 3D solid modeling in MasterCAM. We're going to start out making this little part here. This is our class tutorial 1, and you can see it's a pretty basic shape. It wouldn't necessarily need a 3D model for ease of toolpaths, but it's a great tutorial to learn the basics of how to model in MasterCAM. So we're going to take a look at our overall dimensions first. This part is 6.75 wide by 4 inches, and it looks like it's about 3/4 of an inch thick. We have some drilled and tapped holes that are on a rectangular pattern of 5.75 by 3, and then we have a 2 1/8 inch hole or pocket right in the middle. Now the tricky part to this is going to be putting these little scallops on, these little cuts that are in the corner. So I'll have to show you a trick on how to do that with MasterCAM. Okay, let's start our sketch. I've got a new MasterCAM file opened, and the first thing that I want to show you is our levels manager down here. If we take a look at this, we have to remember that when we start to work in solids, we need to create levels to differentiate between the wireframe and the solid itself. You may even have a level for other things such as the work fixture, the vise, or who knows, it could be a number of things. But for now, we need at least 2 different levels. We need one for wireframe, okay, and then we need a new one that is going to be our solids. Okay, so wireframe and solids. I'm going to make the wireframe active, and I'm going to go ahead and start sketching this part out. I'm going to use the rectangular tool, and I'm going to select this anchor to center. So if that's not selected, make sure it's selected. And I believe our part is 6.75 by 4. So 6.75 by 4. Click OK. We'll go ahead and draw another rectangle. For the whole pattern. And I'm just going to put points on the ends of these lines to represent where those drilled and tapped holes are. I'll press Shift, then click to delete the line geometry. We no longer need that. Okay, we'll draw this circle center point, 2.125. And then the only thing left, we need to draw the little fillets around the edge. So I'm going to do fillet, chain, and then I'll put this on full chain. And then 0.25 radius. I think it was 0.5 if I remember correctly. We want to uncheck the Trim Entities button and hit OK. All right. Now, this is where it gets fun. I'm going to bring this over, and we're going to put this at a little bit of an isometric view. We have a Solids tab over here. Now, if you don't see this, go up to View, and make sure this is selected. So if it's like that, you won't see this tab down here. So you want to select that, and you'll have a Solids tab. This is like our Solid Manager in Inventor or SolidWorks. This is where all of your different history is going to apply itself from each solid that we create. So let's go to the Solid tab at the top, and we're going to select Extrude. When you select Extrude, you're going to get your typical wireframe chaining dialog box. You're going to get this little parameter box, which I'm going to change the color of so that it jumps out at us. It walks us through whenever we get stuck. I like to create the outermost boundary first, so I'm going to select full chain, and I'm going to select all the way around that part. Select OK. And you can see I now have an extrusion representing our part. Now I'm going to reverse this so that we're starting our program at 0 and all of the cuts into the material will be in the negative position. That's the way that I like to program in MasterCAM. Now our distance is 0.75. And I can hit OK. I'm done with that one. And I've created my initial solid body. If you go over here to the Solids tab, you will see that initial solid body. If you wanted to edit this dimension, let's say that it was actually an inch and you put in 3/4 of an inch on accident, you can double click this and you will get back to your parameters page where you can adjust this on the fly. Okay. All right, now let's do this pocket in the middle. This is also going to be an extrusion. We're going to select that pocket, except this time, instead of it being a body creation, we're going to do a cut body. And then we plug in our dimension, which is a 1/2 inch. Okay. All right, the next thing that we need to do is where it gets a little tricky. We need to cut these little corners out. Now before we do that, I want to go ahead and move my solid over to my solid level. Right now, I've just been working off of the wireframe level, which is fine to this point. But here in just a second, I'm going to be separating the two. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the solid, we're going to right click, and we're going to select this change level. When we select that, we're going to move that operation to level 2, which is our solids level. And now you can see I have one entity on our solids level. I can then turn it off, and now I'm working with just the wireframe geometry. Now the reason I did that is just so that it can make it a little easier when we're trying to grab geometry. What I want to do is I want to create a profile that represents this little corner that we're gonna cut out of our extrusion. So right now you can see this particular segment is the full length of the part. So I need an additional segment. Make sure we're back on wireframe. I need an additional segment that goes from here to the end of that arc, from here to the end of the arc. And we're going to do that on all 4 of these corners. These segments will represent the chain that we're going to select to create those cuts. Okay. At this point, we can go over here to our levels and we can turn that solid back on. We're going to go to our solids and we're going to select extrude once again. But this time we're going to select partial chain. And we're not trying to chain all the way around this part. We're just trying to chain these little segments. So I'm going to select partial chain, and then I want to select this wait command because I don't want multiple chains when I get finished with chaining this. I want one single loop. And this wait command will do that for you. Now, the only thing that you have to be very careful with is when you chain this, you don't grab this entity instead. You're wanting to grab this little guy here. So you have to be a little bit of a finesse with the mouse. And it takes some practice, but you'll get used to it. Okay, see how that's grabbing the entire entity? We want to come down from the other side and just barely touch it and then work your way around. So I've now created a very clean loop. Okay, little trick, we can end that chain and then we can start the next one. Okay, end chain. Now we're working on 3 and just work your way around the part. Then hit the green check. So now if you look over here on the left in our extrusion box, you can see I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 chains. Very cool. Okay, so now we need to select our distance, which for this little extrusion it's 0.25. and I'm already on cut body. Now, if you're on create body, it would just create a solid there, but on cut, it's going to trim those away, just like we want. Now, I have seen an instance where if you go over to the advanced page, this thin wall is selected, and if you have that selected, it will not create that cut. So make sure that is unchecked, and under basic, we're on cut body. At this point, you should be able to hit the green check, and we have now created our little cuts or our little scallops around the four corners of this part. Very nice. Okay, so we can close that solid and we can continue on to the next thing. Now, one thing you will notice is this is all being captured under this initial solid body. You can create multiple solid bodies within MasterCAM or within a single file, but keep in mind they are separate at that point. This is currently one single body that has many other features added to it, which is what you will typically do. Okay, so what's left is the hole pattern. MasterCAM has a create hole dialog here that we can select. And just remember to read this. It says use your panel. Okay, so we're going to come over here, and the feature field that we need to fill in is our position of our holes. I like to look at it from a top-down view. And I'm going to use this add position button, and I'm just going to select these 4 points that are going to represent my holes. Now this says press enter when done, so I'm going to press enter on the keyboard, and you can see I have 4 holes now in my part. You can choose what type. So on the drawing, I believe it's a tapped hole with a countersink. So you can select countersink, and we can actually go in and we can change the diameter of the countersink to match what's on the print. You can plug in the angle of the countersink, the distance, we can just do through all on that, and we can select OK. At this point, I'm going to jump over to levels, and I'm going to turn off wireframe. I'm going to make my solid my active, turn off wireframe, and now I have a nice representation of a solid model. The only thing missing, some chamfers. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll call this done. Back in my solids tab, if I come over here to the modify tools, I see I have one distance chamfer and I have constant fillet if I were trying to do a round over. For the one distance chamfer, we're going to select that, and it pops up with a solid selection dialog box. And this works pretty good. You can grab a face. So, I'm not clicking anything. I'm just hovering my mouse over this surface, and I'm looking at what it represents. So right there, it shows you that it's going to apply chamfers to all of the dashed lines there. Now that's not exactly what I want for this. Some cases it may be. But in this case, I really just want this outer edge because I might want to make this a different size chamfer on the inside of this pocket. So in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold my mouse so that it's actually just selecting the edges, and I'm going to work my way around. Just like that. And we'll make this a 30 thousandths chamfer. We'll click OK. And then we'll grab that one. We'll make it, how about 0.06? There we go. All right, and that is the first lesson on Introduction to 3D Solid Modeling in MasterCAM. Hope this helps.